Gregory Kane, CEO of Vortex Motors, is a successful man who is admired in the automotive industry, with a brilliant career and significant influence in the field of technology. Gregory has taken Vortex Motors to new heights with groundbreaking products. However, behind the glory, Gregory feels a void in his heart, a worry that cannot be satisfied. Despite numerous awards and fame, Gregory cannot escape the feeling of not fully understanding the practical aspects of his own company. Gregory's career rose from humble beginnings, and he is proud of his achievements. But deep inside, Gregory feels a major gap in the way he runs the company. His decisions are often based on reports, but he has never truly understood the difficulties that his employees face in their daily work. To improve this, Gregory decides to take an unofficial journey where he can immerse himself in the inner workings of the company and better understand the real issues without the intervention of subordinate reports. He decides to enter the company under a new guise without anyone recognizing him. He will work directly with employees without any help from the company's resources. This is the only way for him to uncover the real problems inside to understand his company from the perspective of the real workers. As someone who values innovation and creativity, Gregory knows that the most important thing to maintain the company's development is to always find ways to understand and encourage the initiatives coming from those who truly create value for the company. However, he did not expect that this journey would lead to an important discovery about his own past and those who had once collaborated with him. This journey is not only a lesson in leadership, but also a test of Gregory's own ethics and professional conscience. Ethan Reynolds, a talented engineer with an excellent mechanical engineering degree from a prestigious university, was once the pride of Vortex Motors. He was the creator of the Vortex EcoFlow engine technology, a groundbreaking product in the automotive industry that helped reduce emissions and increase fuel efficiency. This technology was the cornerstone of the company's success, elevating Vortex Motors to one of the leading car manufacturers. However, after an incident during the project's development, Ethan was unfairly fired. Not only did he lose his job, but he was also falsely accused of violating safety regulations during the product's development. All his efforts to prove his innocence and seek justice failed. The company not only failed to protect him, but also tried to erase any trace of him from this crucial project. Eventually, the name Ethan Reynolds faded into a distant memory in the company's history. Ethan's departure was not only a huge shock to his career, but also a deep personal wound. He had devoted himself wholeheartedly to Vortex Motors, not only with the EcoFlow technology, but also with the passionate heart of an engineer. After being fired, Ethan lost everything: his career, his reputation, and the pride he once had in his work. He began working as a mechanic to make ends meet, still nurturing the dream of redesigning the automotive technology world, but in the shadows and with a heavy heart. Nevertheless, Ethan always poured all his love and care into his young son, Liam. Liam was the only reason Ethan could wake up each morning and continue living, through small jobs and never giving up. Ethan tried to set an example for his son about resilience and the strength to overcome adversity. The chance encounter between Ethan and Gregory on a stormy night marked a turning point in his life, one that neither of them had anticipated. Ethan had no idea that the man he had just helped was the CEO of the company that had taken away his project and career. At that moment, Ethan was still just an ordinary mechanic, while Gregory was facing a decision that would change both of their lives forever. For Ethan, it wasn't just about recognition, but about seeking justice. This journey would be the first step in uncovering the hidden truths, and it would change everything. One autumn morning, Gregory Kane, CEO of Vortex Motors, walked into the office with a clear vision of what he wanted to achieve. However, despite his significant career success, he still felt a sense of something missing. He constantly asked himself whether he truly understood the difficulties and challenges his employees faced each day. Reports and statistics could not fully reflect the reality of the lives of those working out there. Although surrounded by a talented team, Gregory felt trapped by numbers, strategies, and meetings without any real opportunity to engage with the reality of his company. He decided that it was time to gain a deeper understanding of the company from within by immersing himself in the work of employees without anyone recognizing him. To do this, he decided to embark on a secret journey, disguising himself and working under the guise of a new employee. Only then would he be able to truly discover what was happening at the grassroots level. He knew that surveys from a distance or reports from subordinates could not accurately reflect the real issues the company was facing. Therefore, choosing to disguise himself and operate without recognition was the only way he could uncover the problems without being influenced by selective and edited information. However, he did not realize that this journey would not just be a lesson about the company, but also a profound shock to his ethics and personal conscience. With inherent confidence and determination to refresh himself, Gregory began this journey unaware that it would change everything, not only about the company but also about himself. He would face unexpected truths, and a chance encounter would force him to completely reconsider leadership and fairness. Ethan Reynolds, an outstanding engineer who had once been highly regarded by Vortex Motors, was now struggling to make ends meet. Over a year ago, Ethan had created a groundbreaking technology, the EcoFlow engine, which significantly reduced emissions and improved fuel efficiency. This technology had propelled Vortex Motors to the top, but in return, Ethan was unfairly fired by the company. He was blamed for mistakes that never existed in his project and was forced to leave without any protection or compensation. Ethan's departure was not only a professional shock, but also a deep personal wound. All the achievements he had contributed, from design sketches to groundbreaking innovations, were now just memories. The company erased his name from the EcoFlow project, and everything he had done became the success of someone else. A year and a half after being fired, Ethan still had not been able to find a stable job. He lived in a small apartment with his son Liam, while struggling with bills and living expenses every month. Despite the difficult circumstances, Ethan remained optimistic and resilient. His son Liam was the only motivation that kept him going, even though at times he felt that life was weighing heavily on his shoulders. Ethan had to take on many small jobs to survive, including working as a mechanic. Although the job didn't bring in much money, it at least helped him cover basic expenses and nurture the dream of providing a better future for his son. That evening, when he received an emergency call from an auto repair shop about a breakdown on the highway, Ethan immediately prepared his tools to go help. For him, this was an opportunity he couldn't miss. Despite feeling exhausted and drained, he rushed out, hoping to earn a little extra money to pay off his mounting debts. Little did he know that this trip would lead him to an encounter that would change everything, not just about his work, but about his life. On a rainy night, as he drove to the location, he had no idea that the customer was Gregory Kane, the CEO of the company that had fired him. Ethan thought it was just a routine breakdown, and he would do his job like he always did. But in reality, this meeting would mark the beginning of a series of unexpected events, a sequence of events that would change the fates of both men. Under the pouring rain, Gregory drove his Aston Martin to the side of the highway where his car had broken down. Standing outside, holding an umbrella that was blown backwards by the wind, he tried to shield himself from the heavy downpour. Despite being a famous CEO, Gregory wasn't someone who usually dealt with situations like this on his own. But this time he decided to set aside his luxury and experience a more grounded reality. He realized that he had never truly understood the challenges his employees faced in his company. Although his Aston Martin was a symbol of success, Gregory did not feel content with what he had achieved. He knew that without people like Ethan, the talented engineers who created the company's technology, Vanguard Motors would not be where it is today. Because of this, in a random and unexpected moment, Gregory decided to immerse himself in a real-world situation, helping him understand his company better from the perspective of the workers. When Ethan arrived, Gregory had no idea that the mechanic was the same person who had created the EcoFlow technology, the one he had fired 14 months ago. Ethan approached Gregory's car like an ordinary worker, unaware that he was helping the CEO of the company that had destroyed his career. Gregory felt Ethan's deep understanding of engine systems and his confidence in handling the issue, which didn't seem like something a regular mechanic would have. As Ethan worked on the car, Gregory began to feel a sense of familiarity in the way he worked. Each motion Ethan made, from opening the hood to the detailed adjustments inside the engine, gave Gregory the feeling that he was seeing a part of himself in Ethan, the meticulous and refined touch that a true engineer must have. Gregory had never felt such a strong connection with a worker before. Suddenly, a thought crossed Gregory's mind. Surely this mechanic is not an ordinary person. He knows too much about the EcoFlow engine. Gregory suspected that the man might be an engineer, or perhaps someone who had worked with Vortex motors in the past. However, he could never have guessed that the man before him was Ethan Reynolds, the one he had fired and taken credit for his creative work. Ethan had no idea that he was helping the CEO of the company that had taken his accomplishments. As he approached the Aston Martin, he thought it was just another routine car repair, unaware that the man standing next to the car was Gregory Kane. Ethan had been working in difficult conditions for a long time, and this time, like every other, he just wanted to do a good job, complete the task, and earn a bit of money to support his son. While repairing the car, Ethan noticed that the car was using the EcoFlow system, a technology he had created. He immediately recognized the flaws in the system's design, a gap that only someone with deep knowledge of it would ever detect. With his skills, he quickly found a temporary fix, preventing the car from needing a tow in the middle of the rainy night. But he said little calmly, handling the task like a skilled mechanic. Ethan didn't feel any animosity or unfairness while working on the car. For him, it was just another job, and he was used to doing whatever it took to make a living. However, when he finished the repair and prepared to leave, he noticed something strange. The man, though seemingly just an ordinary customer, showed a deep interest in the technical details of the repair work. He even recognized the flaws in the design that only someone in the field would know. Although Ethan didn't realize the man was the CEO of Vortex Motors, a part of him felt an odd sense of familiarity. This feeling grew stronger when the man offered to pay for the repair, and as Ethan left, he inadvertently dropped a technical document containing designs he had worked on in the past. The man saw it and gave him a strange look when he recognized the details in the drawing. Ethan, still unaware of who the man was, just wanted to leave and continue with his life. However, this event would have a profound impact on him in the future. The paths of Ethan and Gregory would no longer be separable. Each was facing their own struggles and conflicts. But fate had brought them together on a rainy night, and this was the moment when everything would change. As Ethan left, Gregory stood there, a storm of emotions rising within him. He could not shake off the strange feeling about the mechanic. The familiarity in the way Ethan handled the engine, along with the details he fixed, that not everyone could have done, made Gregory feel that something was off. Suddenly, he remembered something important: the EcoFlow system that Ethan had designed, that groundbreaking technology that Vortex Motors had proudly launched with great success, but later took credit for. Gregory began to suspect and wonder if Ethan was the creator of this technology. The certainty in Ethan's actions and the meticulous understanding he displayed while repairing the car made Gregory reconsider. The vague feeling of awareness, the precision in every movement Ethan made, reminded him of a skilled engineer. But why would someone like him be working as a mechanic outside? Gregory decided he needed to investigate further. He went back to the office and started looking up information. Little did he know this decision would be the first step in uncovering a major secret about the company. Gregory could not ignore the feeling that the mechanic might just be Ethan Reynolds, the one the company had fired after stealing his work. Determined to find the truth, Gregory ordered his team to review the information related to the engineers and the EcoFlow project. He had a hunch that everything he knew about the company and Vortex Motors' success might not be entirely accurate. He could not ignore the fact that perhaps the company had stolen Ethan's work to achieve the success they were enjoying. Through the night, Gregory went through Ethan's files, reading the details about his sudden departure and the false accusations regarding safety issues that the company had fabricated to justify his firing. He couldn't believe that Vortex Motors could do such a thing. He realized that what he was uncovering wouldn't just be a lesson in professional ethics, but it could change the entire history of the company. Gregory understood that if he wanted to resolve this issue completely, he had to face the truth, even if it was a painful one. After finishing the repair work, Ethan continued to drive home in the pouring rain. He felt a sense of relief knowing that he had helped a customer at least earning a little money to support Liam. Everything seemed like any other day, and Ethan tried not to let his emotions overwhelm his reason. He knew there were still many challenges ahead, and one day he would continue fighting for justice. But something unexpected happened. While driving, Ethan's thoughts kept returning to the EcoFlow technology he had developed. He knew that the creativity behind it had been stolen by Vortex Motors, and no matter what he tried, there was nothing he could do about it. The long legal battles without results, the advice from his lawyer telling him he couldn't go up against such a big company, he knew all of that. But still, he couldn't forget his contribution, and it weighed heavily on him. When he got home, Ethan entered the living room where Liam was playing with drawings he had made of his own engine. Ethan saw his son intently sketching new improvements to the EcoFlow system. But at Liam's age, he only understood a small part of what he was drawing. Ethan smiled, but then he realized something. His son had the same passion for engineering and creativity that he once had. A strong urge arose within Ethan. He knew he couldn't give up. He had to do something to get back what was rightfully his. But for now, he could only look at Liam and remind himself that no matter what, he wouldn't let his son live in such poverty forever. He wanted Liam to have a brighter future, and to achieve that, Ethan knew he had to face the truth about the company that had ruined his life. As he picked up a drawing that Liam had just completed, Ethan felt a new energy surge within him. It was the determination to never give up, even if he had to face bigger forces. And then the phone rang, marking a significant change in his life. It was a call from Gregory Kane, CEO of Vortex Motors. The next morning, Gregory woke up with a heavy feeling in his heart. After hours of reflection, he decided that he could no longer live in uncertainty. The truth about Ethan Reynolds, about the company stealing his work, could no longer be hidden. Gregory realized that his life was no longer a simple chain of successes, but a series of decisions that required the courage to execute. He knew that if he kept quiet, the company would continue to exist on false heights, and those who truly deserved recognition would never receive it. Gregory decided that the truth must be revealed. He had to restore Ethan's honor, the man who had been mistreated by the company, and he needed to show his employees that ethics were the most important value that this company should uphold. Gregory's decision was not easy. Making the truth public would not only affect Vortex Motors' reputation, but could also lead to serious legal consequences. He would have to face opposition from the leadership, especially from Charles Wilson, who had played a key role in stealing Ethan's work. But Gregory knew that if he did not do this, he would no longer be able to look at himself in the mirror and feel proud. A call was made to his assistant. Gregory requested an urgent meeting with the entire board of directors and the company's media team. He also decided to invite Ethan to the company so that he could meet him in person and offer him the opportunity to reclaim what was rightfully his. Gregory not only wanted to change the situation within the company, but also wanted to prove that fairness could and would be restored. He prepared everything carefully, without hesitation. This decision, though difficult, would be a turning point not only in his career, but also in reshaping the values of the company. Gregory knew that what was coming next would change everything. Ethan could not have imagined that after the brief encounter on the highway, his life would change so dramatically. He received a call from Gregory Kane, CEO of Vortex Motors, requesting an immediate meeting. Initially, Ethan felt a great deal of suspicion. He didn't know what Gregory wanted, and he certainly didn't know whether this meeting would really bring him any benefit. But the truth was, he couldn't refuse. Despite the negative emotions from his firing and the company stealing his work, Ethan knew this could be his only chance to get justice. When he walked into the meeting room, Ethan felt a strange tension. The atmosphere was different from when he had been fired. Gregory stood up, offering a serious and sincere smile. The feeling in this room was completely different from previous encounters. Gregory invited Ethan to sit down and began the conversation. Ethan. Gregory began, his voice lowering. I was wrong for not protecting you. The company stole your work and hurt you. I've realized that the truth needs to come to light, not just for you, but for everyone who has been forgotten. Ethan sat quietly, unable to believe his ears. This was not what he had expected. Gregory continued, I investigated and discovered that everything you did was your own creation. Not just the EcoFlow technology, but also the improvements you designed, they were stolen. And I will not let this continue. Ethan felt a huge sense of relief. He never thought he would receive recognition from Gregory, or from the very company that had discarded him, like an unwanted object. But now the man standing before him was doing just that, not only acknowledging the mistake, but also determined to right the wrongs. But still, Ethan had one question in his mind. Could he trust this promise? With what has happened, I can't ask you to forgive. Gregory, said his gaze sincere with no hint of insincerity, but I want to invite you back to Vortex Motors, not just as an employee, but as a leader. I want you to lead the company's innovation department. And I also want you to be recognized as the creator of the EcoFlow technology, with everything you deserve. Ethan felt a wave of emotion rise within him. Finally, he was getting the recognition he deserved, not just through financial compensation or a simple apology, but through the restoration of his reputation and his rightful place in the company. He nodded and gently said, I will return, but on one condition. I want everyone involved in stealing my work to be held accountable. Gregory smiled. That is understood. We will make everything right. With this decision, both men knew their lives had entered a new chapter. Ethan had regained justice, and Gregory had regained his conscience. The changes to come would not only restore one individual, but would also mark a transformation within the entire company with a strong commitment to fairness and ethics. The meeting between Gregory and Ethan laid the foundation for a major change not only in Vortex Motors, but also in the lives of both men. The decision to make the truth about the stolen technology public caused a ripple of disruption within the company. Gregory knew that things would not be easy, but he was ready to face the consequences of his actions. Immediately after the meeting, Gregory called for an all-hands meeting with the board of directors and the company's media team. He not only revealed Ethan Reynolds as the creator of the EcoFlow technology, but also demanded that all misinformation about the project be clarified. Gregory also required the company to take responsibility for the wrongdoing of the senior employees involved, particularly Charles Wilson and others who had participated in stealing Ethan's work. Vortex Motors cannot grow on deception and theft. We must stand up, take responsibility, and correct our mistakes, Gregory declared before the entire board of directors and staff. Although this decision sparked strong reactions from some board members, Gregory stood firm. He had already planned for a major press conference where he would publicly reveal the truth about the EcoFlow project and the recognition of Ethan. This event was not only an opportunity for Vortex Motors to start over, but also a powerful message about ethics in business. However, Gregory also realized that making everything public would lead to many initial difficulties for the company. Vortex Motors' stock price dropped, and shareholders were concerned about the impact on profits. But the good news was that even as the company faced a crisis, there was a positive shift in public perception. Many people began supporting Gregory's decision, and the company's commitment to transparency in addressing its mistakes made it feel more approachable and trustworthy in the eyes of its customers. With this change, Ethan not only regained his reputation, but was also given the leadership role of the company's innovation department at Vortex Motors. He could hardly believe what was happening. From someone discarded by the company, he had returned and become the head of an important department with full authority over creative projects and new product development. As he entered his new office, Ethan looked around and felt the change. This was not just a workspace. It was an opportunity to redo everything, to do the things he had dreamed of before his work was stolen. He could work in an environment where he felt respected and recognized. Most importantly, he could continue developing the ideas he had invested so much passion into. Ethan quickly developed strategies and plans to improve Vortex Motors products. Given the freedom to create, he began developing an upgraded version of EcoFlow with groundbreaking improvements that he had not been able to implement before. He not only thought about profit, but also cared about minimizing the environmental impact and providing more consumer-friendly technologies. Liam, Ethan's son, could now live in a spacious and comfortable home, a stark contrast to their previous life in the small apartment. The boy was now beginning to understand more about his father's work and the passion for science and engineering that he had inherited from him. Ethan felt happy watching his son grow up in a better environment. Although his career had been stolen from him for a long time, Ethan felt that his life had now started anew. He had found a truly meaningful job, and more than that, he could be proud of his own hard work and contributions. By revealing the truth about the situation, Gregory not only restored justice for Ethan, but also helped Vortex Motors recover its reputation. The change in Gregory's leadership style had sparked a wave of innovation within the company. As a result, Vortex Motors not only returned to the pinnacle of the automotive industry, but also became a model of transparency and justice in business. Gregory was no longer just a successful CEO. He was the one who created a difference in how his company operated. He had learned a valuable lesson about always respecting and protecting those who genuinely contribute to shared success. Furthermore, he had proven that truth and justice would ultimately prevail even in a world full of deception and greed. Ultimately, the story of Ethan and Gregory was not just about a career comeback. It was also about trust in justice and ethical values in business. When everything seemed lost, a new opportunity arose, and sometimes it is through challenges that people find their true strength and character. After the press conference and the changes within the company, Gregory Kane sat back in his office gazing out the window. Where the city lights shone through the torrential rain, he had chosen a difficult path. But now, as things began to stabilize, he felt an unusual sense of peace. Deciding to expose the truth had forced Gregory to face many challenges and obstacles. But in the end, he realized that the most important thing was not outward success, but respect and honesty. As news of the change in the company spread, Gregory received support from many sides, especially from the public and customers. His actions proved that ethical values could still exist in a competitive and deceitful business environment. Vortex Motors. Despite facing financial crises and dissatisfaction from some shareholders, regained the trust of its customers. Car sales increased, and the company's stock began to recover. Most importantly, Gregory felt he had done the right thing by standing up against injustice. However, inside him there were still unanswered questions. Could the company maintain this change in the long term? Could the values he had set be protected? Or was this just a temporary shift? A part of him feared that the consequences would linger, while another part took pride in what he had accomplished. Gregory knew that the company could never return to the way it was before, and he was determined never to revert to his past mistakes. He looked to the future with a different perspective filled with hope and determination. Now, Gregory was not just a CEO, but a true leader, someone who had changed the company not through numbers or business strategies, but by protecting ethical values, fairness, and transparency. He understood that a true leader is not someone who holds power, but someone who can create positive and sustainable change. In his new position at Vortex Motors, Ethan not only felt that he had regained what he had lost, but also had the opportunity to rebuild what he had once overlooked. The company had now become a place where he could develop technology, experiment with new ideas, and implement improvements that before he could never have imagined having the chance to do. Even though he had been recognized, Ethan still couldn't forget the difficult days, the sleepless nights he had struggled through, but now he could look at the past without regret. Liam, Ethan's son, had grown much older. The boy now had a better living environment, a cozy house with a playground and a good school. However, Ethan still taught Liam the important values in life: resilience, honesty, and always standing up for what's right. He wanted his son to understand that although life may throw us into difficult situations, we can always find a way to stand strong. Every day, Ethan felt the change within himself. He was no longer the abandoned mechanic, but the leader of the innovation department, where his creative ideas could change the entire automotive industry. He had decided not to let past mistakes shape his future. Even though the company had been recognized and things were stabilizing, Ethan knew that his journey was not just about recognition, but about developing a new generation, a generation that would respect and protect the values he had built. Vortex Motors was no longer just a company. It had become a model for recovery and growth from past mistakes. The change had not only occurred within the company, but also in the people like Gregory and Ethan, and together they had learned that sometimes the best opportunities come from the greatest failures, and sometimes recognition is not just about achievements, but about doing what's right even when it's the hardest thing to do. Ultimately, the story of Gregory and Ethan was not just a personal journey, but also a lesson for anyone facing difficulties and challenges in life. A story of forgiveness, of deciding to start over, and of the power of ethical values. Everything can change, and when people decide to stand up for the truth, justice will always prevail. Ethan and Gregory stood together in the conference room, looking out the window. A new future was unfolding, not only for them, but for all those who believed in change and justice. Both knew that although the road ahead was still long, they had started from the right place. And that was the most important thing. They no longer needed to look back, for they had changed their world, and now it was time to continue moving forward.